On the 15th day of July, the ghost emerged. The harmonious pillars of the immortal sect sensed the arrival of something ominous. The people prayed desperately for protection, as they feared the sinister year, the sinister month, and the sinister day. After the school festival, they wished to pass safely without calamity or misfortune. At that moment, a woman without shoes walked barefoot along the ground. She was wearing dirty clothes but seemed to be pregnant. She stopped at the door and begged for someone to save her child. At that moment, an old man, Lai, opened the door, seemingly having just woken up, and questioned who was there. To his horror, he saw that she was pregnant. He was surprised that a pregnant woman like her could be out on such a freezing day, so he rushed her inside. But at that moment, his neighbor informed him that he should ignore her, as she was just a ghost. Hearing this, he recoiled in fear. However, she grabbed his hand and pleaded with him to save her child. Suddenly, she was whipped from behind, causing her to stagger and scream. The one who did this was Grandma Long. She was a true disciple of the harmonious pillars of the immortal sect and was infuriated that this ghost was acting so recklessly in her domain. While the undead told her that she was not a ghost, Old Lady Long commented that her anger had dissipated, but it was only the woman's maternal determination that had kept her going this far. She informed the ghost that her child might have long passed away. The woman tore open her shirt and screamed that he was still alive. Upon seeing this, they were shocked. It was a demonic pregnancy. How could any creature use such a demonic, sinister, and malevolent sorcery to harm others? Old Man Lai questioned if the child could still be alive. Old Lady Long informed him that the fetus was hanging by a thread, and if it died, the woman's determination would dissipate. At that time, with one dying body and two lives, she would transform into a Burton ghost wielding scissors to take lives and using nearby pregnant women as her substitutes. Old Man Lai questioned if that was the case. Why didn't they deliver the baby? But she told him that it was impossible. Midnight was approaching, and tonight's midnight marked a sinister year, a sinister month, a sinister day, and a sinister hour. If the child were born, the mother would die, and the ghost would rejoice while the living would weep. It would be a sinister-born child, possessing not just spiritual sensitivities. Once they embarked on the path of ghost cultivation, their progress would be 100 times faster than that of ordinary people, making them the ideal candidate for evil spirits to possess. Now, all the spirits and monsters within 100 miles were fixated on this place, waiting to seize this opportunity for cultivation. Once this child was born, tonight would be filled with wandering spirits. If that happened, they might lose their lives there. Midnight finally arrived. In an instant, Old Lady Long was attacked, but the creature that assaulted her was sliced in half by Old Man Lai. More monstrous invaders were cut down, but suddenly, the ghost screamed as her stomach tore open. From it, a young baby was born. Unfortunately, this sinister child had been delivered. Old Man Lai questioned why the child had no umbilical cord. She explained that the child had been placed inside that woman's womb by another, so there shouldn't be an umbilical cord. The technique of transference in demonic cults is the act of extracting a just-formed child from the body, along with the 5 poisons blood, and then stuffing it into a woman born in a sinister year, month, and hour. This woman must also be a close relative of the child. If the child matures without going through childbirth, it will torment the woman to death. 2 lives are sacrificed, and the womb and spirit become uncontrollable for the one who cast the spell. Only with deep-seated enmity and one's blood can one seek such vengeance against their enemies. Not only has that person harmed the woman, but the child's biological parents will also be cursed. Their entire family will perish, becoming lonely souls and wandering ghosts, unclaimed even in the underworld. Old Lady Long patted the ghost on her head and commented that she had been through a lot. The ghost smiled and handed them a talisman and some needles, begging them to please take care of her child. She knelt and declared to these 2 great sages that she would repay them in the next life. She told the ghost not to worry. She would raise this child to adulthood. After those words, the ghost finally met its end. Suddenly, a voice exclaimed that it smelled so good. They called for Old Man Lai. Old Man Lai questioned why there were suddenly so many voices calling his name. She told him not to respond to them as those were ghostly cries. The gates of the underworld had opened, and the 5 poisons' blood had stripped away their seal. They couldn't wait any longer. She ordered him to take the child inside. She summoned a giant green snake called Changba and pleaded with it to take control of her as she was ready to battle these beasts. Not too long after, Old Man Lai called for Changba, handing her the child, telling her to take good care of it. A young man questioned where his mother was, as he needed to be with her. Old Man Lai informed him that he was just an ordinary person, but his mother was the most formidable within 100 miles. He then showed him his mother's grand seal. She wanted him to take it and sit on the rooftop. No matter what happened, he must not speak or move. Suddenly, Old Man Lai removed his sword and declared that if anything happened to him or his mother, he must take care of his wife and the child and run quickly. His mother had said the old pantry on the top of the East Mountain would protect him, but before leaving, reminded him to remember his mother's words. With teary eyes, he explained that he understood. Old Man Lai removed his sword and wrapped it around his hand. However, Old Lady Long's eyes were now like a snake's, seemingly possessed, but she questioned why he had come back again. He declared that she was Changba, the immortal that Grandma Long worshipped. He was her old neighbor. They each had their own demons to take care of, so they must honor their bonds. She laughed as he declared that it was just a snake, so he shouldn't hold it in such high regard. If something too fierce came, it would be the first to run. Lady Long told it not to worry. She understood and thanked it for its help. Suddenly, Lady Long declared that the incense ash had chased, meaning they had arrived. Suddenly, strange figures began to materialize. It was the ghosts. She took out her whip, preparing to attack. She whipped them, but they merely laughed. However, not too long after, they dissipated. They were just a bunch of fools who had eaten and wrapped souls in new dead shoes, and they dared to come and share a piece of her pie. Suddenly, she sensed extreme danger. Behind her was a giant demon. However, Old Man Lai sliced it in half, using his special technique, the 100 beheadings killing blade. That may be its name, but he had killed far more than 100 ghosts. Not too long after, they were surrounded by demons and ghosts. Suddenly, Old Lady Long declared that Tengu, a mythical creature in Japanese folklore depicted as a bird-like humanoid with both human and bird-like characteristics, had swallowed the moon and only half the blood remained. A green aura removed itself from her body. The snake that had possessed her questioned what kind of creature she had saved. Its own signs were too severe for it to stay. Suddenly, a giant golden-black creature appeared behind the snake, questioned where it was going. The creature held its head in its hand, and its body was very muscular, almost as muscular as the Hulk. Old Lady Long questioned how Green Fong had gotten out. He declared that he was originally a wandering soul a while ago, but he had been honored and worshipped by her for many years. As a member of the harmonious pillars of the immortal sect, he had to come out to assist. Moreover, he sensed that she was coming. Meanwhile, a group of ghosts in red robes carried a box on their shoulders. Inside was an old woman with long, pointy ears and an old, wrinkly body. Old Lady Long was shocked. It was Granny Ma. Granny Ma would soon obtain the status of a proper ghost immortal, so why would she damage her karma by snatching this child? However, she informed them that she was only there to take a look, but if they couldn't stop these little ones, she didn't mind joining the fun. She released a strong aura, but they were not fazed. Grandpa Lai questioned who she was. Granny Long informed him that she was more troublesome than all these little ghosts combined. Suddenly, from the house, someone screamed that the ghosts were entering. Immediately, Green Fong rushed to their aid. A ghost slowly pushed its way through the door. However, the young man sat still, holding the lantern in his hand. Meanwhile, his wife was trembling, holding a weapon in her hand. However, Green Fong arrived and told the creature to stop. Suddenly, the baby grabbed the creature's tongue. The baby showed its sharp fangs and bit the creature's tongue in half. This was seen by the young lady, and she was disturbed, but not as disturbed as the zombie who quickly ran away. There were more and more coming. Granny Long is afraid she won't be able to hold on much longer. When the final circle of incest is contaminated and loses its effectiveness, The evil spirits will be unstoppable. However, Grandpa Lee is confident. He questions what is she afraid of. They may be old, but they can hold their own until they leave. However, she shouts, telling her son, his wife, and the child to run. She will hold off these creatures. Suddenly, Quinn exited the house with the child in hand. They quickly realized that this baby was controlling Quinn. The baby's eyes glowed red, and a smirk appeared on his face as he began to laugh. He then entered the body of his deceased mother. Suddenly, his mother returned to life, but she was actually being controlled by the baby. She lunged at the monsters, tearing them all to pieces. She was ruthless and smiled throughout it all. The baby, fierce right after birth, left everyone wondering what kind of trouble he would cause in the future. At that moment, Chong Bie assured them that this was just a temporary phase. Once the evil aura brought by the womb dissipated, he would become a normal baby. Suddenly, the aura disappeared, and the baby's eyes were no longer red but had turned white. Now, the baby was surrounded by monsters, defenseless. Grandpa Lai ordered the ghosts to keep their hands away from the baby. However, Grandma Long cautioned him to stop, as ordinary people like him would only meet their death if they approached. She summoned a bone in her hand that emitted a purple aura, declaring that she would consume the 1,000-year-old grudgeful spirit bone, instantly transforming into a ghost to stop them. She urged them to take the child and run. Quinn begged her not to do it, as she would never find peace in the afterlife if she did. Grandpa Lai was surprised, but given the circumstances, there was no other choice. Suddenly, a violent shaking was felt by both humans and ghosts. It was an avalanche. The ghouls and ghosts were frozen in ice, while the snake coiled itself in its tail, shivering from the cold. Even Granny Ma was frightened. This was no ordinary avalanche. It was coming from underground. Before them appeared a ghoul covered in chains. Grandpa Lai questioned what it was, but Grandma Long stuttered in fear. Even the ghosts and immortals were fleeing. The creature that appeared before them was immensely powerful. At that moment, Grandma Long grabbed Grandpa Lai, and they prostrated themselves, exclaiming that these humble peasants were paying respect to the violent general. Many might assume this creature to be a deity, but that was not entirely the case. However, he was under the righteous path, and his real name was Hangyu, the son of a hunter. Hangyu was born with incredible strength and extraordinary bravery, but he was a bit simple-minded. His parents passed away early, and he lived a rugged life hunting for a living. Luckily, he was taken in by an old woodcutter in the mountains who treated him like his own son. The woodcutter's only daughter, Cui Lan, was known for her beauty for miles around. Over time, she developed feelings for her kind-hearted brother. They were happily married, but the news of Long's marriage to Hangyu stirred jealousy among others, especially a tyrant named Hermor. Ermao had a big brother who was a lawless constable, so upon hearing that Long was getting married, he immediately went to the old woodcutter's house to forcefully snatch the virtuous bride. However, Ermao and his men could not defeat the brave Hangyu, who easily overpowered them. So they came up with a malicious plan to lure Hangyu away from the mountain and take Long. As a result, left without Hangyu's protection, the woodcutter's family fell into the hands of Hermor. When Hangyu returned home and saw the tragic scene, he swore to seek revenge. The sight that truly broke him was seeing the undead body of his beloved wife. He massacred Hermor and his entire family, leaving no one alive. After avenging his family, Hangyu knelt for 90 days at their graves until he became a corpse buried beneath the ice and snow. Due to his exceptional loyalty and love, the emperor bestowed upon him the title of the Vigilant General. Later, he transformed into a mountain deity guarding the region. But the question remains, how would he treat the child? The general walked towards the baby. The baby extended his hand to him, unafraid, sensing something good about the general. The vigilant general looked down at the child, unmoving and emotionless. Suddenly, a green aura emitted from the snake deity. It transformed into a snake, knowing that the vigilant general might soon strike. If they didn't leave now, there wouldn't be any pieces left of them. At that moment, the vigilant general broke a chain from his body, and the creatures behind him screamed in agony. The part of the chain that he broke off he used to demonstrate his power. He knelt down and placed it on the child's ear. Not too long after, a red aura entered into the child's ear. The vigilant general then made his way towards the boy's deceased mother. In the process, he stepped on the snake deity. He carried the woman in his arms while the snake deity begged for help. As the vigilant general walked away, the baby tried to reach for him, but they had left him behind, and he began to cry. Grandma Long held the baby and assured him not to cry. Everything would be fine. Meanwhile, the screams of the ghosts were heard as they tried to escape from their prison. However, the vigilant general entered the ground, seemingly devoured by it. The sun set, and Grandpa Lai questioned if the issue with those dirty things had been settled. Grandma Long told him yes, it was done now. The snake, writhing in pain, declared that they were lucky as the vigilant general had helped them out. Meanwhile, Quinn disappeared like ash in the wind. Grandpa Lee told the baby that he was very lucky. After surviving last night, he would surely have a lucky and prosperous future. However, as the danger wasn't over yet, before this child stabilizes, those ghosts will come every night. Old Man Lai questioned when the child would be stable. The snake deity informed him that it would not be anytime soon. To make the soul stable, they would have to wait until the child could speak. However, that would take at least a year or two, and it was practically impossible for them to hold on for that long. But there was only one way they could resolve this issue. In the snowy mountains, a tree stood tall, alone. Grandma Long had brought sacrifices for Elder Song. Elder Song had saved her life, but she must make a request. Suddenly, the tree began to move, and a formation was made in the snow. She exclaimed that she knew this matter was highly dangerous, but she had no choice but to come and seek help. She lowered her head, declaring that she was not just doing this for the child but also for the people in the village. Due to the way she was lowering her head so sincerely, her forehead began to bleed. She declared that if it were to happen again, she wouldn't be able to hold them back, and their whole village would be sacrificed for this child. Old Man Lai declared that he didn't believe in gods or ghosts and didn't need to see heaven on earth. But if they were willing to help, he was willing to bow down to it. He also lowered his head sincerely and injured his forehead in the process. The wind began to blow, and a tree branch hit the old man on the head. He held the branch, questioning what it was. Old Lady Long declared that this was the pine oil they needed, along with the millennium pine that Elder Song gave them. Old Man Lai was surprised that this millennium pine was so tiny. Grandma Long assured him that he would see the power of this millennium pine in a moment. Back home, Grandma Long planted the branch, but Grandpa Lai didn't understand. He stated that it was already late, but she was planting trees. Suddenly, the branch sprouted from the ground and grew into a tall tree. She explained that with Elder Song's millennium pine, the dirty ghosts wouldn't dare to come in. Now they could start the ritual. Later, candles were burning brightly, and a small shrine was made. This so-called ritual involved using the skin of a spiritual creature that had existed for at least 1,000 years to seal off all of the child's spiritual senses. This would completely cut off his path of cultivation. However, Grandma Long had been on her spiritual journey her whole life, but she didn't possess the skin of a 1,000-year-old spiritual creature, so she could only use a substitute from another spiritual being. However, the snake deity interrupted, questioning if any 1,000-year-old skin of any spiritual being would work. She questioned if he had one. Grandma Long stared at him, smiling, and Grandpa Lai just shared a knowing look. Noticing their expressions, the snake deity exclaimed that even if he was lacking, he was still a descendant of a wealthy family. A snake can turn into a python in 500 years. A python can turn into a small dragon in 500 years. A small dragon can turn into a water dragon in 500 years. And beyond the water dragon, there's the horned dragon. The Ying dragon's ancestors liked to shed their skins, so it was a simple task to just shed skin. Old Lady Long and Old Man Lai were grateful and thanked him. However, the snake explained that this was practically equivalent to dragon skin. So, since he was giving this treasure to them, he requested that they forget about his earlier escape during the battle. However, Quinn told him to shut up. But Grandma Long assured him that Chang Bai never ran from a battle. He was just trying to use the influence of others to call for reinforcements. She ordered everyone to guard their place and not slack off. The snake and Quinn exclaimed, "Roger!" And she began the ritual, and she begins ritual. She pours droplets of a liquid in the baby's mouth. When this occurs, a golden aura image from the child. They hope that after this ritual, this child will become a normal person and be spared from the covetous spirits. She's covered his entire body with the Millennium Pine Oil. At that moment, Chong Bai opens his mouth wide and reveals the skin of the spiritual creature. He throws it towards the shrine and it wraps itself around the boy.